You are not going to get to 250 or more in revenue if your sales and marketing are inconsistent and lumpy. You're going to stay in that feast or famine mode. Welcome to Profit and Prosper, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are ready to make some money while doing what they love. On this podcast, we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about all things business and money. But I promise you, this is not your typical boring numbers talk. I'm your host, Sarah Young, a CPA and CFO with over a decade of experience in finance, business, and leadership. I'm going to share everything I've learned from helping my clients grow more profitable businesses and keep more of what they earn while growing my own successful business along the way. You'll feel empowered and confident that you too can grow your wealth, live a rich life, and have an impact. Stick with me and you might even start to think that finance is fun. Let's dive in. Welcome back to this week's episode. I am excited to talk about this week's topic, which is why I believe that 250 is the new 100 when it comes to the revenue that you generate in your business. So before we dive into talking about that, I want you to ask yourself the question, have you ever felt like you were in the pit of despair? And I'm going to give credit to my friend Jessica Lackey of Jessica Lackey Consulting for giving me that phrase. She's a lot better at words than me. I was talking to her the other day and talking to her just about some of the things I'm experiencing in my business right now. And she used that phrase, and I thought it was perfect to describe, I talk about how entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. There's highs, there's lows, but the pit of despair is like a super low low. I have been in this place probably twice now in my business. The first pit of despair that I experienced was around $10K a month in revenue. The second pit of despair that I'm at now is I'm in the high 30s, between 35 and 40 in revenue. And what got me into the pit in each time is a little bit different, but what I'm learning is that to get past it, I have to shift the way that I run my business. I have to just kind of reshuffle things because at both levels, what I found is I'm feeling burned out. I'm operating at capacity. I'm not able to focus my time and energy on the places that I really want to focus on. And it requires me to really think bigger about my business in both cases. So I think that 250K is a new 100. I'm going to talk in this episode about when I realized that my life was easier when I was doing about 20 to 25K a month in revenue as compared to 10K, and why I think that 10K a month is so hard and you either need to go bigger or smaller, in my opinion. And from seeing all of the financials that I've seen and talking to all the business owners that I've seen, I'm going to talk about what shifted as I got my business up toward 25K a month and 4 things that you need to know if you want to grow your business from that 10K level up to 20 or 25. So here's why I think this is important. 10K a month or 100K a year, really 10K a month is 120 a year if you want to do the math, but we'll use round numbers. This is a really, really common goal for a lot of people. And I don't know if it's because it feels like a milestone because you're going from 4 to 5 figures in revenue or 5 to 6 on an annual basis, or if it just feels like, I don't know, I think that it's marketed. If you look at a lot of coaches and programs and things out there, they talk about like growing your business to 6 figures. It's a really ubiquitous goal. But for me, and I've seen this with a lot of clients, my business at 8 to 10K was just really, really hard to maintain. And I'll talk about why. So I went full time with my business in summer 2020. In late 2020, I was at anywhere between 8 to 10K a month in revenue. In early 2021, I was doing 10 to 15 in revenue. And then late 2021, I had grown my business to 20 and then 25, and then had a few months that were getting up close to 30. And I had this realization this one day. It was November 2021 on a Wednesday. I specifically remember this because it was such an epiphany for me. That morning, our nanny called in sick. And at the time, my son, Jackson, he was about a year and a half. We had a nanny at the time, and she texted us at like 6:30. She couldn't make it. And so really late notice, obviously, like my husband and I had to shuffle. And for whatever reason that day, I think my husband had a lot of meetings and couldn't really be the primary caregiver. And so I just had to take a day off work. And it was at some point in the afternoon, I was sitting out, like we were playing with something in the driveway, I think. And I just remember looking down and saying, I'm not stressed. I'm present. I'm not, constantly checking my email. I'm not stressing about, not being able to do work. It's just a day. I'm able to take care of my son. I'm able to take time away from my business, and it's not a big deal. And a year before, that was not the case. Even 6 months before, that was absolutely not the case. And I'll give a few reasons in a few minutes on why that shift to that revenue level made things possible for me to step back from my business that was not possible for me at $10K a month. I just feel like for a lot of business owners, and this is not just my feeling, this is from talking to a lot of you, it is not sunshine and rainbows when you get to 100K years or 10K months, even though it's sort of marketed to be that way. Because for most of us at that level, you are having to constantly hustle with delivery, whether that is client delivery, onboarding, doing the thing, offboarding, or if you have a product-based business, shipping the product or getting it ready, getting it ordered, managing the inventory. You're constantly having to think about sales and marketing to bring in new leads. And you're also not putting a ton of money in your pocket at that level. I'll run some numbers here in just a second, but I think that a lot of the times too, like you're so busy, like you may do a sales and marketing push, then you get a lot of customers and you put all of your time and energy into delivering for the customers and you stop doing sales and marketing, which means you're in this feast or famine cycle, which is hard to break out of. And a lot of the times you don't have the time to actually be the CEO, to come up with new things, right? To come up with ways to improve your business. You just don't have the time, and things certainly fall through the cracks. From what I have seen, there are very few people, I think, who can maintain 10K months or around that level as a solopreneur with very low stress. And I think that those people tend to be coaches or consultants who can charge a very high ticket price for what they're doing, and maybe what they're delivering to clients is not very time intensive outside of the FaceTime. So, compare that to me. When I was first going full-time in my business, I did a lot of bookkeeping. That was very time intensive between doing all the work, doing the reporting, the reconciling, communicating with clients, all the back and forth. It was very time intensive. So it depends on your business model. Also, course creators, maybe you have group programs, things like that can definitely be easier to maintain with a lower headcount. But again, if you don't have that stuff built out and you are at 10K months trying to deliver for your clients, when are you ever going to come up with the time to build a program? It's going to be hard for a lot of people. Let's actually put some numbers to this. So let's say you follow the profit first target allocations, which are 50% of your revenue, or for you product-based businesses, 50% of gross profit. So 50% goes to paying you, 30% goes to paying your expenses, 15% to taxes, and 5% to profit savings. So in actual numbers, if you are at 10K months, that would be $5,000 to paying you, $3,000 for expenses, $1,500 to taxes, and $500 to savings. So let's look at the expenses first. After you pay for software subscriptions, after you pay for other business expenses, maybe you rent a space. Like me, I have an office space because I cannot work in my house. Maybe you have some other business expenses, maybe some marketing, maybe a business coach. How much money's left? Can you afford to pay an employee or a contractor? Maybe you might be able to afford a part-timer, maybe a VA, maybe in my case, the first person I hired was a bookkeeper. And was it helpful? Yes, absolutely. It was helpful, but it wasn't helpful enough for me to prevent me from getting burned out, because even when I hired a bookkeeper, to pay for the bookkeeper, I then started bringing on more clients, which meant more work, which meant more reviewing, reporting, troubleshooting, client communications, all of that. And I was still really burned out at the 10 to 15K a month mark. Then let's look at the 5K owner pay. So $5,000 a month is about $60,000 a year in take-home pay, which I know for some of you is more than you're paying yourself now. And so that might sound great, but really think about that long term. Is that enough? Is that enough money to pay your living expenses, make sure you have some left over to pay down debt and save and invest for retirement? Is it enough for you to have some fun money so that you can fulfill all of your life dreams? Probably not. And the reality is that most business owners at the 10K level are not meeting the profit first allocations. You're spending more on expenses and paying yourself even less. Like, is that really worth it? 60K a year. For me, it's not. For me, it's not. After we pay for childcare and the mortgage, I mean, we don't have debt outside of the mortgage, but I also am not I'm not the frugal type who tries to house hack and, live off of ramen or whatever. Like, I like to eat good food. I like to not feel guilty about buying clothes. And so for me, 5K a month just isn't enough. And I think that it's okay for it not to be enough for you too. Once you've made 100K in sales, what does it take to save 100K? I'm on a mission to help 1,000 entrepreneurs turn their business's cash flow into $100,000 in wealth, whether that comes from paying off debt, saving more money, investing into retirement accounts, or reinvesting into your business to build a cash flowing asset. That's $100 million in capital in the hands of world-changing business owners just like you. Can you imagine the impact that would have? Building the first 100K in investments from your business would be life-changing. It'll teach you the money habits and financial strategy that you need to get you not just 100K, but eventually to financial freedom. I want to help you stop being self-employed and constantly on the cash flow hamster wheel. Let's elevate you into a CEO that thinks about their money like I do. I've been hard at work here behind the scenes, revamping my Profit and Prosper group program into a deeper 12-month coaching program that'll teach you my signature M4 profit method for building 100K in net worth. And it officially relaunches on October 24th. I'll be your CFO and financial coach for an entire year as you go through the seasons of your business. I'll help you implement my profit method and turn your business's cash flow into wealth. Go to profitandprosper.co/join now or the link in the show notes to learn more and sign up. So I honestly believe that if you are currently targeting 100K, or if you're currently there, somewhere in that range, maybe 8 to 10, or maybe even up towards 15 a month in revenue, I would encourage you to either go bigger or go smaller. I'm going to spend pretty much the rest of the episode talking about going bigger, but I'm going to put in a little caveat here. I have seen a handful of businesses, primarily client service businesses, that are able to generate, let's say, 6,000 or 7,000 a month in revenue off of maybe they have 1 or 2 clients that they maintain. They have structured their offers and their pricing in such a way that the delivery is easy for them. Their processes are all built out, and they keep their monthly recurring overhead super low. So if you keep your revenue at like 6 to 7K and then your overhead is low, then you're basically pocketing most of that money. And for the time and energy that you have to put in to maintain that type of business, it may be worth it to you to get paid 5K a month. Maybe. I have seen this work for some people. And so I would say if you're good with 5K a month, then maybe figure out how can you structure your business to have a lower than 10K revenue goal, keep your overhead low, and then pocket as much as you possibly can. But for those of you who want to go bigger, here is why, for me, in my experience and what I have seen working with a lot of my clients, when they get up to anywhere from 20 to 25K or so in monthly revenue, counterintuitively, you're doing double the revenue or maybe more, but it's actually easier for you to maintain. And here's what I found personally. First and foremost, I was able to hire more than just a part-time bookkeeper. So most of my overhead, my biggest overhead expense, is on my team payroll. But I was able to hire a full-time employee who was able to handle a lot of that reporting, review, project management, client communications, the stuff that takes up a lot of time. And I could outsource a lot of the work. And that vastly reduced the amount of time that I had to spend working on actual delivery. So if we run the numbers, if you remember at the 10K a month example, you had $3,000 to cover expenses. With 20K a month in revenue, you have double that. So you have $6,000 a month that you can spend on overhead. So if you have the same software subscriptions as before, and maybe the same of your other business expenses, you now have $3,000 extra that you can spend on hiring a team. So for me, that was honestly game-changing for me to be able to afford that. The next thing that changed was really a result of growing, but for me to go from 10 to 20 and 25 in revenue, I had to really solidify my offers, my packages, and then also my sales and marketing process. So I had to really figure out what was the key, what was my process for making sales, and who was my client, and what offers and what pricing and packaging worked for them to deliver them what they needed. I did that by shifting from bookkeeping to CFO services. And I think I talked about this back in episode 3, so I won't go into huge detail about that. If you want to go listen to how I strategized to get myself from, 10K to 25K, go listen to that episode. But I was able to get all of that nailed down in order to get to 20 and 25K months. And then once I got there and you have that figured out, it is so easy to maintain that, right? Because you already know what works. You just have to keep doing it. And you have more time to do it because you've hired a team to take care of a lot of the day-to-day stuff. I also found that I had more space to not just take a day off and hang out with my 1.5-year-old at the time, but I also had a lot more space to come up with new ideas, new programs. So actually in Q4 of 2021, that was the first time that I ran what is now my Profit and Prosper program. And I was able to step back and lay that program out, put it all together, do all the filming, get people in it, because I had this space to come up with new ideas. And in part, those are the things that got me even beyond the 25K mark. I was also able to pay myself more. So again, back to the math, at 10K months, if you pay yourself 50%, you get $5,000 a month. If you do 20K a month, 50% of that is take-home pay after tax of about $10,000. I don't know about y'all, but 10K a month feels a lot more spacious to me when it comes to paying myself, paying my bills, and being able to save and invest. Okay? So I think that if you're one of the types of business owners who you maybe don't want to scale to 7 figures, then I would encourage you to look at finding a way to stay steady at probably around that 250 mark, because you can afford to outsource most of the day-to-day stuff, and then you have the extra money left over, the 10K a month, that you can use to pay yourself, start investing into your retirement accounts, maybe doing some other investments I've talked about in other episodes, because you have some wiggle room. And having that wiggle room, y'all, is the difference maker. So getting to a place where you are no longer in the feast and famine cycle, where you're not just paying yourself regularly, but you have extra money that you can invest, whether that is investing in something outside of your business or choosing to put some extra money back into your business to continue growing it. The wiggle room is how you create wealth. So you've heard me talk about in the past on other episodes about the difference between being self-employed and being a business owner. And I think that at the 10K level, you are very much self-employed, meaning if you stop working, if you stop delivering, you stop making money. When you make these shifts, so by having a sales and marketing process, by knowing how to get leads, by knowing how to convert them into your offers that are priced well, that are profitable, that you outsource some of the delivery to a team, you are going to be building an asset that can start to run without you. And that is the definition of wealth, right? Detaching your time from making money. And this is a really hard shift to make. And I think that's why 100K feels like the pit of despair, because to shift from 100K to 250 requires you to really put some effort into putting all of those pieces into place. So if I was your CFO, there are 4 things that I think you need to do just from a financial perspective, really an overall business perspective, in order to shift from 100K to 250. Number 1, having a millionaire mentality. Number 2 is having a plan that will get you profits in your business. 3 is investing in the right things in your business in order to grow it. And then 4 is money management. So let's visit each one of those, and we'll talk about what each of those means. Number 1 is your millionaire mentality. To me, this includes not just money mindset, but also habits that wealthy people have, money habits for being a good steward of your money, and also looking for opportunities to use leverage to grow your business without relying on your time, and opportunities to take a few risks but potentially get a big reward. So the whole last episode before this episode was all about money mindset. So definitely go check that one out for more on money mindset. But I would also encourage you to think about your money habits. How are you managing the money in your business? Are you doing bank balance accounting, which is just pulling up your banking app and seeing how much money you have to spend that day? Or are you actually being a good steward of your money? And then the last part that I said around leverage was this is absolutely something that wealthy people employ, that a lot of people with an employee mindset don't employ because they're used to trading time for money. So understanding ways that you can use leverage to grow your business and looking for opportunities to take advantage of that, and not in like a sketchy way, not in a way where you're taking from other people, but just where you're being smart about how you use your time and spend your money to hopefully get a better ROI. All of those things are in your millionaire mentality. And I really found that to go from 100 to 250 in revenue, I very much had to detach from some of the things that I was doing at the 100K level. So I didn't get my business to 250 in 2021, which was my first full year in business. I did 250 in revenue. I did not get to 250 by just taking what I was doing at 100K, which was, I did about 60K or so in revenue in 2020. I didn't take what I did there and just quadruple it to quadruple my revenue. I had to get smarter about some of the things I said above, right? The offers, pricing, packaging structures, having a team who was delivering what. I couldn't quadruple the work that I did to quadruple the money that I made. And that's really what I mean by millionaire mentality. How can you quadruple your revenue without necessarily having to put more time in, and maybe even putting less time in? So that's number 1. Number 2 is planning for profitability. And so when I do planning for people, when I talk to them about setting real goals in their business, I talk about this from a bottom-up perspective, or reverse engineering, meaning we start with the end goal in mind. Not just how much do you need to be paid, but also how much do you need to be investing? This could, again, be investing in retirement accounts. It could be saving up to buy real estate. It could even be investing to grow your business to the next level, so it in turn gives you an ROI and generates more money. So we have to get clear on how much money your business needs to generate, and then do the math to get up to your revenue goal. And then from there, taking it a step farther and saying, okay, based on my pricing and my capacity, does this work? Can I do this? How can you create a profitable business based on the team that you have, the systems that you have in place, and how do all those things fit together? It's like a big puzzle, and we just have to sit down and figure out how to put them together to not just achieve your financial goals, but also your time goals. So if you're like me and you are a mom or a dad, you have kids, for example, like you don't want to work 60 hours a week in your business, then we need to factor that in and say, well, if you're not putting the time in here, either what are the things you can do in the time that you have to make more money, or how can you leverage other people's time by hiring a team or getting contractors in order to make the money that you need to make. It's all just one big puzzle. But you've got to sit down and actually run the numbers to be able to figure all of this out. Number 3 is investing in the right things. So I think identifying opportunities for ROI is part of my millionaire mentality, because wealthy people, again, are looking for investment opportunities where they can put $10,000 in and get $100,000 back. How can they do that? They're going to do that all day. So we need to learn how to invest in the right things. So if you're at 100 and you want to get to 250, then you need to invest in some of the things that we have to put in place to get to 250. So that could be in your business's systems and processes. If you are like a lot of clients that I start with, you have different pricing, custom packages, you have systems that live entirely in your head where only you know how things are supposed to go. Your time management is all over the place. You've got to start to systematize everything you're doing in your business to make it consistent so that when you're ready to outsource something to someone else, they're not sitting there guessing at what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, what the end result should be, what is success, right? How are they going to know any of those things if it all lives in your head? So you have to actually take the time to develop your systems. The same thing goes for sales and marketing. You have to learn how to create, get more leads at the top of your funnel, get them through to convert, whether that's from a sales call or on your website or however you sell, and then figure out if I do X, then I get Y. This is an area that I had to invest in my business. I had to get help from a sales coach and marketing people to figure out that process for how to actually make sales consistently, because you are not going to get to 250 or more in revenue if your sales and marketing are inconsistent and lumpy. You're going to stay in that feast or famine mode. Then I think once you have systems and consistent sales and marketing processes, then building your team and really paying attention to what are the things in your business that you as a CEO are spending way too much time on. And this still happens to me to this day. That's part of why I feel like I'm in another pit of despair is I am in the process of hiring a tax person, which I should have done probably late 2021. But due to my own mindset issues, I didn't. I held myself back. So that very much happened to me at the 100K level is, I was held back because I was doing so much delivery. So I think once you have systems that other people can step into and you feel confident about making more sales, then the next step is to hire a team member to fill in the spaces where you're going to get the most return on your time. And ultimately, you want to stabilize your business. So stabilizing your business from a financial perspective means you're generating positive cash flow more often than not, especially when you think about just your recurring monthly expenses. I'm not talking about like one-time projects or one-time courses or programs or like consulting projects or anything like that. I'm talking about making sure that when you look at your consistent recurring monthly expenses, you are also consistently bringing in enough sales to cover those. And then making sure that you build up your cash in your business so that if things happen and if you have to pivot, you don't get stuck. You don't have to rely on debt or personal savings to fill the gap while you recover. We saw this happen, obviously, to a lot of businesses during the pandemic. That happened where people clearly didn't have cushions or they were super burned out in their business and just had to shut it down. So stabilizing your cash flow, building up your cushions, of course, setting aside money for taxes so you don't end up with a huge bill and have to go into debt to pay it off, right? So we want to make sure we are investing in the right things is number 3. And then number 4 is managing your money, having money systems in place. Because you can make all the money in the world, but if it doesn't actually end up where you want it to go, then you are not managing your money. And if you're not being a good steward of your money now, how do you expect to be a good steward when you have double or triple the revenue coming in? You're not going to. It doesn't just magically happen. You've got to start putting systems into place. And so, yes, like foundational systems would be having, bookkeeping on a regular basis. It would also just be like having, knowledge of what is my normal operating budget? How much do I spend in expenses? How much revenue do I have coming in? Do I have enough? Is there anything that I need to change? So it's, I think, looking at your reporting and making CEO level decisions off of that. And then if your goal is to make X amount of profit and start investing, whether that is investing in any of the things I've talked about before, right? Are you actually following through on that? I did a podcast interview a few weeks ago, and the host asked me, what is the thing that you see most people messing up in their business? What's the biggest mistake that people make? And I've seen a lot of mistakes. A lot of them are recoverable. Like it's hard to, nothing we're doing in terms of money is generally going to be life or death. But the biggest mistake that I see across the board is people not taking an active role in managing their money in this final step, and either managing based on your bank balance for the day, which if it's high is going to make you feel good. If it's low, it's going to make you stressed out, creating an even crazier roller coaster ride, or not paying attention to it at all, pretending it doesn't exist because it makes you feel overwhelmed because maybe you don't understand it, or maybe you have some shame. It's all tied back to your money mindset too, right? Just not managing and not taking an active role in your money is the biggest mistake that I think people make. So those, I think, if I had to boil down my overall process for any of my CFO clients, ignoring some of the tactical stuff around taxes and bookkeeping, but thinking about big picture, how do you actually build an asset out of your business? How do you get past the pit of despair that is 100K and get up to an easier place? It is by implementing all of those 4 things. So your millionaire mentality, having a plan for profitability, knowing what to invest in to move your business forward, and implementing solid money management systems. That's it. And those are the four areas that I teach in my Profit and Prosper group program for a reason, okay? These are the areas I think I see business owners struggling with when it comes to their money. And I think we need to put these foundational things in place in order for you to actually achieve any of the goals that you have. So I am going to be relaunching my program at the end of October, and Profit and Prosper, the program is going to be, I'm totally relaunching it. I've been working hard behind the scenes here to restructure the program after going through it multiple times with people over the last year. I've just really honed in more on what works well and taken out some things that I think we don't need to focus on. And so I've streamlined it down into this method, this 4-step method. I'm coming up with a fun name for the method, y'all. You probably know by now I'm not good at naming things. So Profit and Prosper is going to be a year-long group coaching program for entrepreneurs who have made 100K in their business to learn how to turn your business into an asset like I've talked about, to where you can build 100K in net worth. And you might think, oh, 100K is a lot of money. It sure is. But I have actually not really said this out loud. I am on a mission. It is my mission here in my business to help more business owners make more money. And I don't just mean paying yourself a regular salary. I mean actually building wealth. And so my goal for the next, we'll call it 3 years or so, is to help 1,000 business owners build 100K in net worth using the cash flow from their business. And I feel so excited to even say that because I feel like this is my mission in life. So anyways, Profit and Prosper, the program, it's coming back in late October. It is going to be enrolling, so get on the wait list if you are interested in signing up. You can get on the wait list if you go to my website at trustyoungco.com/programs. If you get on the wait list, then you will have access to an exclusive waitlist only bonus and incentive. It's going to be really fun. And I'm so excited to be relaunching this. And I think that if this is you, if you are feeling like you are in the pit of despair and tired of being on the hamster wheel and tired of being self-employed, then let's work on that. So I'm excited to hear your feedback. If you listen to this episode and it resonates, send me a DM on Instagram. I am now at It's Sarah Young, and I still have Young Co CFO, but I'm mostly at It's Sarah Young. So send me a DM there or send me an email at hello@trustyoungco.com. I love to hear your feedback, and y'all, I will talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Now, I want you to go take some action. What's one thing you can do this week to create more profit in your business? Send me a DM on Instagram at YoungCoCFO and share your action item with me. If you have a question or topic you'd like me to dive into, or if you're feeling empowered about taking charge of your finances, let's continue the conversation. Go to profitandprosper.co to submit a question or topic for me to talk about on the show. And because we all profit and prosper better with friends, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, subscribe wherever you listen, and share the episode. Make sure you tag me at YoungCoCFO on Instagram so I can give you some love, and I'll see you in the next episode.